Hey everyone, this is Victor from Cyborg for Life, and I want to welcome you to episode 36 of Lengthening Live, where the patients get to interview the guests. And today we are joined by a very special guest. He's a cosmetic stature lengthening patient who's part of the terrific trio of patients, two of which who were, on this channel before. You know them as Bob the Circus Boy Hunt and Dr. Optimus. Well, today I'm going to introduce you to the third part of that crew, and that is the professional. What's up, TP? How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Victor. Sorry about some technical challenges that caused us to start the show late, but
No, not a, not, yeah.
I appreciate your problem or your time anyway, and sorry for the problem.
Not a problem, man. I'm glad to have you come on to share your limb lengthening experience with everybody. I mean, that's what they're all here for. So before we begin, I just have to know, how did you come up with the name The Professional? What's the story behind that all?
Well, really, it wasn't my idea. I'll give credit where credit is deserved, and that was Bob the Circus Boy Hunt dubbed me as his professional friend and referred to me as the professional in his interview.
Yeah.
And so I went with it, and there's kind of a funny story in terms of how I met Bob that I'm happy to share with the group, but just in the spirit of time, I will tell you that after my original procedure where the precise 2.2 nails were implanted, I was at the surgeon's office, and Mr. Hunt walked in, and I was in the waiting room, and he was talking with the staff there, and they were asking him if he had his procedure scheduled, and his comment was, "Yes, I'm going in for the kill on Monday." And and he was sort of looking in my direction, and my comment to Bob was, "That's an awfully interesting way to describe the procedure. I'm not sure that I would describe it in such a fatalistic fashion. It's really not that bad."
Right. I love it. That's awesome. So yeah, you and Bob are good friends. He's a really charismatic character himself, so that's really great. Well, before I begin, I just want to kind of do a quick disclaimer just to make sure everybody knows, because that all information, content, and material on this live stream video is for informational and demonstration purposes only. It is not intended for, as a substitute for consultation, diagnosis, or medical treatment of a qualified physician or healthcare provider. With that out of the way, we're going to dive right into it. So TP, the way that this whole channel, live stream thing works is that we're going to start off with, an interview and background of your limb lengthening experience. And then if we have any time at the end, we're going to answer some questions from those in the live chat right now. Does that sound good?
Sounds great. And I'll also add to the same disclaimer. I'm not a medical professional. What I'm relaying to you here today is just based upon my experiences. I'm not by any way, shape, or form providing medical advice. So do your research and make decisions based upon your own research.
Right. Very good. Okay. All right. So I want to ask, again, get some foreground so everybody knows the context behind this. Why do you want to kind of share your limb lengthening experience? I mean, a lot of people want to kind of keep this under wraps, not tell anybody. I mean, we've had a plethora of patients who come on and share their experience, but why did you want to do that?
Well, frankly, I've been a big fan of yours, first of all, and thank you for everything that you do for this community.
Of course.
So at least part of the motivation here is to repay you for all the hard work and energy that you put into this. Which I'm sure is not making you a millionaire.
Not by any means.
The second reason is to try to, in some small way, repay all of the kind people that have shared information with me prior to the procedure and helped me hone my decision making in terms of, making sure that I wanted to go through with the procedure and trying to, quench the thirst that I had for all the information. Everybody wants to know, well, how is this, essentially it boils down to, how is this going to work out for me? Is it going to be worth it? And a lot of kind people along the way were happy to spend time with me, talk with me, answer my questions. And I thought it was only the right thing to do to repay those folks and sort of pay it forward, so to speak.
I love that. That's all I ask from every patient that comes on here is to share your experience and know that it's going to be there for all the future limb lengthening patients. Very cool. Now, TP, I want to kind of dive into the whole background of your limb lengthening experience. When did you decide to get your limb lengthening surgery done, and why?
Well, you know, I wasn't the world's shortest person. You know, my stature was 171 centimeters, you know, as sort of my daytime height, and maybe up to 171 and a half, you know, fresh in the morning, you know, when gravity had not taken its full effect quite yet on my body. And, you know, I've been obsessed, so to speak, with my stature or lack thereof ever since I can remember, you know. And so for me, it was, you know, trying to address something that had been bothersome for me my entire life.
Okay.
You know, not this is was not done on a whim. And so in researching the procedure and understanding and vetting whether or not it's the right thing for me to do, you know, I was on the cusp of scheduling my surgery, and had decided to just go for it. And almost literally, as I was contacting the surgeon's office to schedule a date certain, uh, the stride nail was voluntarily recalled,
Yeah.
which which I know some people who I might even recognize by name who may be listening can relate to. And so I then contemplated, you know, what to do, and my original decision was to, you know, wait and see, you know, and you provided lots of information, good information about sort of what the prognostication was for when the stride nail may return.
Mhm.
Ultimately, it became very clear to me that that was not going to be anytime soon. And as the show notes probably reflect, I'm not the youngest patient ever. I'm not the oldest patient ever. But you know, I think we can all agree that the sooner you can do this procedure, if you're going to do it, the better off that you are. The more value, so to speak, you'll get because you'll have the added height for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And so I ultimately decided at some point I'm just going to go for it. I don't care if there are limitations with the precise 2.2 nail.
Yeah.
And I talked to several patients who had undergone that procedure in lieu of waiting for the return of the stride nail, and you know decided that you know it, my COVID cover, so to speak, was you know disappearing quicker and quicker by the day, and I just had an opportunity and I took it.
Very good. Awesome. So, what was the actual day of your surgery? What date was it?
My original surgery was December 6th of 2021,
Okay.
right?
Gotcha. So December 6th, 2021. Okay. So you are now just about a little over 6 months removed from your surgery. So let's chop it up into phases. So we all know that there's like the surgery phase, the lengthening phase, and then the consolidation recovery phase. Let's start with the surgery phase, the beginning. What was your experience like in that part?
Well, um, I would say of all the phases, the surgery phase, the initial surgery phase was to me at least the easiest of the phases.
Wow.
You
Okay.
know, I had never undergone a surgery ever in my whole lifetime,
Yeah.
which was a little nerve wracking or concerning anyway.
Mhm.
And uh, the surgery experience I would describe as this. And many people have described it the same way in various forums and on your channel.
Mhm.
You know, to me, I scheduled the surgery, I got my date, and then, you know, I fly to the surgeon location and I do my final appointment, the pre-op, and then, you know, go back to the hotel and think, oh my God, what have you done? This is really happening, and you try to sleep, and for me anyway, you know, it was a very uneventful experience. It was odd. It was totally new to me and foreign. I'd never had a surgery before. For those of you who are similarly situated and have never had a surgery, you literally, you get ready for the surgery. It seems like forever
Yeah.
as you're waiting for the surgery to happen.
Hmm.
You then are transported via gurney to something akin to a refrigerator, and you're in a very cold room, and they transfer you onto a cold metal table,
Yeah.
and where the procedure occurs. And I can tell you that my goal was to see how far in the countdown from 10 I could get, to stay awake. And so, as the anesthesiologist, she was very good. She told me exactly what was going to happen.
Mm.
They first of all administer some kind of pre-sedative, I guess, and that's probably not technically medically correct, but something to sort of relax you. And then they give you what I'll call just, in the shorthand method, sort of the knockout juice that makes you, unconscious so you don't feel the surgeon literally breaking your legs.
Yeah.
And the last thing I remember before I woke up after the surgery was her saying, "Okay, now we are going to administer the first, set of these, the relaxation sedative," and then I immediately fell asleep. I didn't
Yeah.
even get to 10.
Yeah.
There was no countdown from 10. I didn't even get to the first number.
Wow. That's
So
incredible. Yeah.
the next thing I knew, I woke up, and I will say, in a very unvarnished fashion, that I was in a lot of pain when I woke up. But the nursing staff, to their credit, got that pain under control almost immediately.
Nice.
And then for the next 3 days, there was a lot of sleeping. And for me personally, I did not have a high degree of pain. I did
Interesting.
not have a lot of swelling. In fact, um, the second day into the procedure, when the surgeon visited me, he asked me why I was not taking, more of the pain medications.
Hmm.
And I was a bit befuddled because I didn't know what he was talking about. I said, "Well, I'm taking the morphine. It's morphine sulfate." And I said, to me, I thought that was like, the equivalent of heroin or something. And he said, "No, there are two other pain medications that you haven't been taking that are available to you." And I said, "Well, I'm just not having the pain."
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
so that with some IV Toradol to reduce inflammation, was all I really had while I was at the hospital. I will tell you though that being discharged from the hospital and navigating my way from there to where I was staying after the surgery
Yeah.
was not pain free.
Okay.
Um, One thing you'll learn if you do this procedure is that when you have to get transportation, it's important in terms of the type of transportation you get. And
Hmm.
when you use Uber, you kind of get what you get. And the Toyota 4Runner that showed up to transport me to the hotel was not the most convenient way to like navigate my way back to the hotel, I will say.
Right. That's incredible. Yeah. So, all right. So you just had the surgery. You said you weren't in a terrible amount of pain right after the surgery, but as you were going through the transition of getting from the hospital back to your hotel, you felt that movement of, the pain from movement and whatnot. Now, tell us, TP, did you have a caretaker to kind of help you, assist you from day one, or what was that like?
I did not have a caretaker.
You
This
didn't.
was all just, kind of the John Rambo style, plan. And to be clear, uh, I'm over 50 years old. I'm in my early 50s, and I frankly, given my very, very busy schedule, could have planned better and
Mm,
did not. I attempted to maybe enlist somebody to help me with that process, the transition, but it just wasn't possible. And all
gotcha.
that being said, I was just fine on my own, and my wife fortunately joined me 3 days later and spent the weekend with me, and then I just was on my own. So I did not ever enlist any caretaking assistance.
Well, that's okay. I mean, as long as you had some sort of support, your wife helped you out there, and you seem like a smart enough guy that you kind of figured that all out of how to get around there. All right, so now you kind of get into the first week where the lengthening starts. What was your experience like with that? Because you had you mentioned at the beginning you had the precise 2.2 nail in the femurs. Now you're getting introduced to the lengthening phase. What was your experience thinking? Hey, look, this is how I'm going to get my bones longer, and I'm going to get taller.
Yeah, it was a unique experience. I will say that for me personally, the lengthening phase was not painful or problematic.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
It was obviously new,
Mm,
and when you're using the ERC device, it's always kind of a strange experience. You get better at it with time,
right.
and for me, the first 30 millimeters, 35 millimeters, piece of cake. No problems really. There now everybody's different, and your body will react differently than mine. Everybody's does,
Mhm.
and so one issue I addressed was, there was some, my calves, my lower legs, the part that wasn't surgically performed on, were very tight for some unknown reason,
Mm,
and I think it was just a water retention issue, and there was a concern that the surgeon had that I may not be taking the Xarelto, and of course I was.
mhm.
That's very, very important,
Yeah.
uh, and I was never going to compromise on that, especially given my age. And so at some point, the decision was made to kind of slow down the lengthening schedule, and
Okay.
rather than do the 3 turns a day at 0.33, we opted to do uh, change that up to 3 turns at 0.75 per day.
Okay.
And I did that for some period of time, and in between this time, I transitioned from where my surgery happened and I went back home to do my lengthening phase at home, and then toggled back and forth between my home, which is in a different state,
Mhm.
and the surgeon's office, so
Gotcha.
that I could do physical therapy with someone who I think is probably the best physical therapist in the world, and that's Mike Russell. Um,
That's right.
Big shout
Yeah.
out, shout out to Mike. He's a wonderful human being, and his team is a wonderful group of people.
Yeah, guys, if you don't know who he's speaking about Mike, the PT Russell, physical therapist, who works alongside Dr. Debbie Perchette in Las Vegas. Amazing guy, super talented, super wise about all of this. So, what type of things did you do in rehab to kind of like help you reduce pain or get mobility back as you were doing the lengthening process?
Uh, Really, two primary things. I tried to do as much PT on my own as I could, and leverage off all of Mike's experience, and worked with him to really maximize what I could do myself. And the second thing was, for me personally, ice was a lifesaver. For whatever reason, I'm not sure why, but icing my legs was like magic. I mean, it really helped with the pain, and that and ice cream, were very helpful at making me focus on something other than the pain and stiffness that I was experiencing. But we're not talking about horrible pain here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure that I could. Well, I don't think I ever experienced pain beyond, you know, a 5 or 6 level, and that was only temporary during that lengthening phase.
Hmm.
Uh, and I'd say for the whole experience, frankly, other than just the immediate post-surgical pain, was my pain ever higher than that for
That's
me?
incredible. I mean, that just shows right there that the variability in patients, when it comes to pain levels, is so important to realize for a lot of prospective patients. They're like, "Oh, how painful is this?" It's really hard to kind of put your finger on and say it's going to be this painful because, like you said, your pain level wasn't that bad. Whereas other patients I've interviewed in the past are like, "Oh my gosh, it was excruciating." So I'm really glad you brought that up.
And to
Now,
be clear, on that one, Vic, just to point
yeah,
out,
yeah,
it's not like it's not like I was a gymnast or some super flexible person either. I mean, it's one of the things I think I tried to point out was that this is a different experience for everybody, and it's just going to depend upon your physiology.
Hmm.
So I got lucky that way.
Gotcha. So you mentioned that you were lengthening. You had to slow down the lengthening to 0.25 3 times a day to get to the 0.75 per day. When did you arrive at your goal, your length? Did you hit the full 8 centimeters? Let everybody know that what length you ended up at.
I ultimately did hit the 8 centimeters, and
Okay.
ultimately, um, I opted on my own to go not to move away from the 0.75 schedule back to the full millimeter, but I did it in 4 sessions per day.
Gotcha.
And at least from my experience, it took longer. This is not a linear experience for most people. Now, extraordinarily disciplined and lucky people like my good friend Dr. Optimus we're probably exactly on the nose 80 days exactly from when they started lengthening to reach the full 8 centimeters. That was not my experience.
Mm.
In fact, I had a bit of a hiccup with the lengthening phase in that the device actually read that I had achieved the full 80 millimeters,
Hmm.
and yet when the X-ray measurements were done, something went amiss, something went awry
Hmm.
with the device or the manner in which the lengthening was being done. I'm not sure why. I don't know that I'll ever find the answer out.
Hmm.
But I was not at 80. I was only at 72
Wow,
millimeters.
that's
And,
crazy.
and, and well, it was disappointing and frustrating, obviously, because I was, as you might imagine, ready to be done.
Yeah.
And so I had stopped lengthening when the device read that I was tapped out for
Hmm.
about 7 or 8 days,
Oh wow.
and then doing physical therapy. I wanted to make sure that my flexibility was much better when I saw Dr. D,
Hmm.
because you know, in retrospect, I certainly could have been more disciplined at my physical therapy. It was a pretty challenging situation, toggling back and forth between my home in a different state and Mike, and getting the PT there. First of all, in my home state, there there's not an abundance of people who are familiar with this procedure at all. And second, you know, talking my way into a physical therapist's office who was fairly cautious. I think she was concerned that of the whole procedure and situation.
Hmm.
And so I didn't do a ton of formal physical therapy when I toggled back and forth. I just pretty much did it on my own.
Okay.
Uh, so
The most important thing is that you're doing it. I mean, a lot of patients, when I say rehab, when I say stretch, it's getting done. It doesn't matter if it's, I mean, well, it does, but at the same time, as long as it's getting done. So that's important. Very cool. So we talked lengthening, we talked about your rehab. Now I want to kind of know, as you're finishing the lengthening phase, you go back to see Dr. D, you get the x-rays, you know you only hit 72 millimeters. I guess you continue to lengthen to get to the 80. Now you're finished lengthening. Now it's time to get into consolidation. What is your decision here? Because we all know that Dr. D has that accelerated weight bearing program where it does help you to get to a weight bearing status a lot sooner than if you just waited out with a precise two nail. What was your decision process?
well, initially my decision was I don't want to go through another procedure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the eternal optimist, and of course, notwithstanding my age, I was convinced that I would be consolidated, faster than any patient that Dr. D had ever seen before. But that was not going to happen. I'm a good bone former, probably better than average,
Hmm.
but not crazy better than average. And I started doing the math in my head, and as I did the math in my head, a confluence of things were happening, and there were very important events that I did not want to miss.
Okay.
that I would be missing or would be much harder for me to participate in if I did not do something like have the advanced weight bearing nail procedure. So ultimately, I decided to undergo the advanced weight bearing protocol surgery where essentially they swapped the precise 2.2 nail out with a trauma nail.
Hmm.
And this is not a normal trauma nail that you get if you're in a car accident and break your leg. This is right now in both my femurs. I have the second longest nail that's available that you can order.
Wow.
So I underwent that procedure on April 15th,
Okay.
and that procedure was um, similar to the first procedure, except I will tell you that I had the immediate pain in the post-surgical sort of recovery area, which was very similar to the first experience.
Hmm.
But what was different is that when you swap out that nail and you have the second longest trauma nail you can order in your femur, you you will experience what I would describe as next level stiffness in your
Oh
legs.
wow. Sheesh.
And on top of that, when I did the procedure, the surgeon, the anesthesiologist, the medical doctor, in talking with him, he recommended that I do a femoral nerve block,
Hmm.
which is designed to alleviate some of the post-surgical pain that you have. And it, well, it may do that. It also, puts that nerve to sleep so you can barely move.
Yeah.
So, eh, so that was a level of stiffness I don't think I've ever would have even imagined to have experienced. So, and when you do that surgical procedure,
Hmm.
this is not a 3-day hospital stay. This is a 23-hour observational period procedure.
Wow.
Literally, the nails are swapped out. You do your post-op recovery. You then spend the night, and you're discharged the following day.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Man.
It was it was a bit challenging.
Yeah, I'd say definitely.
It was a bit challenging.
But the
But
good thing is,
what's your weight bearing? Your
yeah,
weight bearing, right?
exactly. That's exactly what I was going to get to now. You now have the weight bearing status, and you don't have to fear that something's going to give or go.
Well, and
Maybe.
that's an important point. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. No.
It's a very important point because, for me, part of the decision making process and going through that second procedure was, well, you can consolidate and just wait, and
Hmm.
time and the tincture of time will allow your bones to heal and the consolidation to occur.
Hmm.
It's not like there's a magic green light that goes on when you know exactly you're fully consolidated and you don't have to worry about turning and twisting or stepping in the wrong direction and having something happen.
Right.
It's there's a ton of uncertainty, and
Hmm.
all of that was eliminated with the insertion of the second longest trauma nail that's available.
Hmm.
And so you're it's a trade-off.
Yeah, it's
I think
absolutely a trade-off.
Dr. D has said this before. There's no free lunch. There's nothing is free. There's a trade-off, one for another. So I
Yeah.
opted to pick the trade and accelerate the ability for me to return to more normal function, even though I wouldn't be fully necessarily consolidated for
Hmm.
some period of time still.
Right.
But I'd be able to walk around, and eventually I'll be able to walk around without a walker and appear relatively normal, much sooner than I would be um, if I just waited. And I'll have the confidence level of knowing that if I step the wrong way or I do something else, I'm not going to have to worry about fracturing something or doing other damage.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now that's actually what I want to kind of dive into now, TP, is basically can you give a compare and contrast of having the precise 2.2 and what you were able to do, like getting around the room and getting, items you needed or being, very innovative or, ingenious with things versus having the trauma nail in your femurs so you could actually get up with the walker and not fear about, hey, look, I can stand here, let go of my walker and get what I need and then go back. What was the? Can you compare and contrast the Precise 2.2 versus, a weight bearing nail?
Absolutely. One of the happiest days of my life, I will say at the outset, was to return that wheelchair to Dr. D and
Yeah,
never have to use that wheelchair again. Now,
yeah,
it wasn't without challenge, because then everywhere I went, I had to use a walker. But that was one of the happiest days of my life. There was nothing I enjoyed more than that.
right.
I think, other than perhaps walking around, so to speak, with the trauma nail in, and being in the same hotel room and not having to use the microwave while sitting in a wheelchair. Instead, I was walking around and sort of feeling like Godzilla because
Mhm.
I was so tall, at least in my mind, compared to where I had been functioning before. So, and then I guess from a more simple perspective, I mean, just simple things like if I drop something, with a trauma nail in, I can bend down and pick it up
Mhm.
with my hand. I don't need to use the senior citizen grabber stick that I have.
Senior citizen.
And no disrespect intended when I say it that way, but I don't need to use the grabber to pick up items that I drop, to get my socks on.
Mhm.
But again, it was a very unique experience, and it got much better over time. And my function returned, I would say, in an exponential type timeline. You
Mhm.
know, after the first couple days, when it would literally take a half an hour to sit up out of bed, to get to the bed, to scoot down to the end of the bed, to get on the wheelchair. I went from that
Mhm.
to ditching the wheelchair altogether in like a week, you
Wow,
know,
that's
or
incredible.
10 days. I mean, I can't remember for sure, but it was a
Mm.
very quick progression. And then, as I left, I was there for a couple of weeks after the surgery. I mean, I'm doing all the same PT I was doing before, but I'm literally walking on a treadmill,
Mhm.
for 10 minutes in a row. And,
Wow.
and, and then, part of the normal regimen was what I referred to as dancing with
Mhm.
with Mike, where he would extend his hands with his palms up, and I would hold his hands, and we would walk around, and I would walk around independently.
I love it.
And
That's
and
awesome.
and, and it was a unique experience, because for 4 or 5 months you've trained yourself to offload your weight to your arms, because you do not want to put too much weight on your legs. I'm not 140 pounds. I'm well over the weight bearing capacity for the Precise 2.2 nails.
Mhm.
And so one of the weird things was retraining your brain to say, hey, you don't want to do that anymore. You,
Right.
you, you actually want to put weight on your legs,
Mhm.
because you have the ability to do it, number one, with the weight bearing nail, and number two, I think it actually helps stimulate bone formation, and allows you to return to flexibility, because you're actually using muscles that hadn't been used for quite some time.
Yeah, you're 100% on the right on point there with what you said. It stimulates bone, helps the muscles get that mobility back and strength back too. Incredible. So that's a good comparison between the weight bearing nail and the Precise 2.2. Now, what I want to do is actually kind of figure out. You said your nail swap was about a month ago, just about a month ago. You're still on the walker now, and when do you expect to ditch the walker?
I am still on the walker, and to be clear, the walker is really just to me, it's like having a safety net.
Okay.
I'm using all of my legs to do the walking for the most part. There's still that training in my brain, though, that occasionally has to remind myself that I'm not supposed to be offloading the weight. I don't need to be doing that.
Hmm.
But essentially, I'm using all my legs, and the walker is just kind of the safety guidelines, and I'm doing the PT as I was before. One of the things that occurred when I did return home was that I unfortunately developed or contracted. I don't know how you want to say it, but COVID,
Ah,
uh,
yeah.
which, notwithstanding my double vaccinations and my booster shot,
Mhm.
still got me somehow. And I will say that, and a combination of my busy work schedule, probably, I lost, I would say, at least 10 days or a couple weeks of progress that I otherwise would have had. And if those two things hadn't have happened, I
Mhm.
would I would bet that I wouldn't be walking without the walker right now. So
Wow. Okay.
I expect to ditch the walker within a couple weeks.
Nice. Hey, man. Yeah, probably right after Memorial Day. That'll be ready for summer.
Yeah,
Very
there you
cool.
go.
Awesome. Now, TP, let's talk a little bit. Now that we know, you just took us through all the different phases: surgery, lengthening, consolidation. Now, I'm going to kind of talk about the overall aspects of the lengthening process. And the first one, the one that everybody wants to know, is height. Can we talk about the changes in height? Do you notice it? And have anybody else that's around you in your social circle notice it as well?
Well, certainly I notice it.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
just there's just there and I mean, there's just to, um, everybody's got a different starting point. But for me, at 171 centimeters,
Mhm.
I was about 5'7", maybe 5'7" and a half.
Mhm.
And when you go from 5'7", 5'7" and a half to 5'10" to 5'10" and a half,
Yeah.
you go from the bottom 25 percentile in men's height in the United States to the top third, or about the 65th percentile in height. And it's a big jump.
Yeah.
um, but 3.15 inches is a big jump for anybody.
Of course.
But now when I walk around with shoes on, even though I still am working on keeping my knees completely straight, and I've got a slight forward pelvic tilt.
Mhm.
I expect to, if I use my cheater shoes, as I did before the surgery, that I will stand at about 6 feet tall,
Wow.
with shoes on. I'm 5'11" and a half right now, without I call I call them my Tom Cruise lifts, but I don't want I think Tom's much taller than people think he is, but but so it's quite a difference. And in terms of reactions, one of the things that's, I think, masked people from noticing that or asking me about it is the fact that I have a walker. So the social settings
Mm.
that I've been in, to me, the walker is like a shiny mirror that's reflecting light in their eyes to distract them from kind of everything that's going on.
Mhm.
Uh, but that's not going to last very much longer, and people are becoming more and more vocal, shall we say, about, well, what happened here? What's going on? Why are you using this walker? And I've got a big watershed moment coming up just this weekend, where I will see my immediate family, my parents and other family members, who uh, I don't think there's any way to avoid them noticing, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Wow. Well, yeah, we'll definitely have you back on like a round table with your other buddies to kind of tell us about that, update us on that. That's crazy.
That'd be
Um,
great.
yeah, absolutely. Now, TP, another big aspect that patients worry about, and this is fair because this is a cosmetic procedure, is proportions. So you lengthen the full 8 centimeters on your femurs. Are you worried that your interlimb ratio, meaning like the femurs to tibias, is going to be a little bit skewed? And now you have longer legs. What's that look like in terms of like your body, I mean, your full height, and even your arms? I know a lot of guys are worried about that as well.
Yeah, I know. I'm familiar with a lot of concerns about proportions. I
Hmm.
would say for me, um, the of those concerns that you mentioned, there's maybe only one concern, and I don't even notice it, but it would be the tibia to femur ratio.
Okay.
I was blessed or cursed, however you want to describe it, with exceptionally and freakishly long arms.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
even before the surgery, my wingspan was about 5'10" and a half, 5'11",
Wow.
and I was only 5'7", 5'7" and a half. So to me, I mean, it was to the degree that my wife would complain that it's uncomfortable to hold hands while we're walking because my arms were so long. So, 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 um, you know, that to me, I think I just, there was a mix up somehow. And the man upstairs just forgot to lengthen my legs the appropriate amount, but lengthened my arms the appropriate amount. And so to me, I just kind of fixed that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All
So
right. So you balanced out.
I'm not worried about proportions in the
Yeah.
slightest. I don't have a short torso or anything that would cause me to stand out.
Okay.
I don't have to worry about hunting for clothes that are hard to find
Yeah.
anymore. So for me, proportions weren't a consideration
That's
at
awesome.
all.
Very
So
cool.
I got lucky that way too.
You definitely did. I mean, I also have long arms compared to my height, so it may be something, forecasting into the future. I'm not saying much, but anyway. All right, very cool. Now, what would let's say you just mentioned that you're going to have a family event coming up, this weekend. If people do ask, what is your cover story? Because that's another thing patients want to know. Like, what should they tell people if they do ask? They're like, oh my gosh, I'm a deer in headlights. What should I say so I don't, I'm not a freak? What's your cover story?
Well, I think there's probably three versions of a story that I need to really figure out.
Yeah.
First of all, the story to my immediate family and my parents, I'm convinced has to be different than I'll call it the cover story to other people. The
Mhm.
cover story to other people will be that I had a leg length discrepancy, and that much like my friend Victor, and that I needed to have it fixed, and that I
Yep.
had it fixed. And while they did that, they did a rotational deformity correction. I'll throw in some metric, system number like,
Yeah.
3.45 centimeters or something,
Yeah.
and people's eyes will glaze over, and then then probably say, yeah, I might be a little taller. Plus, I'm wearing my lift kit shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then quickly change the subject.
Right. Right. Right.
In a very subtle way. Now that's probably not going to work with my parents, is what I've concluded,
Oh.
because I think my parents. My mother in particular is a pretty good detective, and she might say, well, geez, it's odd that you wouldn't have mentioned this, in the whole 50 years of your life until just now. So I'm, to be real candid, I'm not sure quite what that story is going to be.
Okay. All right. So it's going to kind of be a,
So
a
so there's
freestyle
a
response. Yeah.
so there's a story for I think immediate family members that needs to be solidified. There's
Yeah.
a cover story for coworkers, um, and that peer group, and then
Hmm.
there might be a third variation of a story for people that keep digging,
Right.
because some of my coworkers and very good friends just happen to be exactly my height, and now it's going to be obvious as we walk into a building and see the reflection in the glass that all of a sudden I'm 3 inches taller than they are.
Yeah. Exactly. That's going to be it.
And, and I suspect, and I can, I already know who these people are going to be,
Yeah.
that they're going to want to continue to dive further into the details of the procedure. And for that,
Yeah.
I think I need a more solidified, uh, fill in the gap type story for them.
I can't wait till you come back on to update us on that. It's going to be a great story.
Maybe they won't notice. I mean, I
That's
don't know.
true.
I mean, this is what I call the leg lengthening paradox.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
all want to be taller because we want to be treated differently. We want people to notice. We
Hmm.
want to do it for ourselves. But then, as soon as we get it done, we're immediately concerned. that all those things are going to happen.
Right. No,
So
it's so true. Yeah, yeah, because I know that like when people were asking me, I just said, oh, I had another leg procedure. It's like because I've had broken legs in the past, but for you it might be different because you said you had no surgery. So everybody has to have their own like little cover story there.
that's
Incredible.
right.
Now, TP, uh, I mean, you've just provided a lot of value, a lot of helpful tips for patients who are thinking about this. But before the stream here, you sent me a list, a top 10 list of helpful tips that patients can think about before going through with limb lengthening. So I actually put that together. I have it here. Do you mind if I share that and you want to go through that?
No, that'd be great. And I think the top 10 list probably, confirms that I really am 50 years old. To me, it's kind of a la David Letterman style, and time flies. I mean, I don't know how long it's been since he's been on the air, but for those of you who are old enough to remember, he had this top 10 list that he would do as part of his show all the time.
I
So
love it.
I thought I would put together a similar list.
Hmm.
And, these are just my observations, and I'm happy to go through those.
Very cool. Awesome. So I'm going to pull that up here in my, let's see, it's kind of jumping around. Let me see, Chrome tab. There it is. Got it. Okay, so I'm going to share this. I'm not sure if you can see it. Let me just shrink it down a little bit. You zoom. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Just shrink it. There we go. Okay. So can you see that okay? So
Yes, absolutely.
awesome. So we have the top 10 limb lengthening pro tips. Conquer limb lengthening like a pro. So tip number 1, I'll read the headline and you can kind of fill in the gap. So the professional said, this is a serious but rewarding journey. So tell us a little bit about what that means.
Well, I think my intent behind that is, this is described as a cosmetic surgery,
Mm-hmm.
but this is a very significant.
Uh-oh. Think something's happening. TP, can you hear me? I think you might have cupped out for a second there. Let me see if I can get him back. There we go. I think your
Oh,
audio
there we
kind of
go. There we go. Sorry.
you're back.
Yeah, my audio cut out. Sorry. So,
Yeah.
what I meant by this is a very significant surgery. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's not a removal of a skin tag or some kind of cosmetic procedure like this. This is a very serious surgery, and if you decide to do this surgery, you this is not something that is. I mean, it's going to require a significant investment of time,
Yeah.
effort, and capital. So that's
Absolutely.
all I meant by that.
Gotcha.
And pain is temporary, you
Yes.
know, but the reward at the end of the day is certainly well worth it from my perspective.
I agree. I agree. Number 2 is prepare well, but realize you can't account for everything. What do you mean by that?
Well, everybody's different. I hear all kinds of tips about people who say the key is you need to be able to stretch. You have to do this. You should do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, um, I'm not convinced that I mean those are all good things, but they're not guarantees that this is going to be an easier experience for yourself.
Yeah. Uh, TP, I think there's a little bit of a clip on your. I'm gonna just hide you from the screen and put you back on. I think that your audio is kind of clipping out, and I got some flack for that last week from General
Oh,
Grievous. There we go. I think you're okay now. All right. Number
General Grievous,
Yeah, General Grievous. He's a
Star
subscriber
Wars
to the channel.
character,
I
Star
know.
Wars character.
You got
Okay,
yeah, exactly. I gotta love his little username there, but he gave me some flack for the audio. I was like, I'll do better.
okay,
But
okay.
anyway, number 3, expect the unexpected. What does that mean?
Well, as many people on your channel have reflected or communicated to you,
Hmm.
you know, one day your right leg could be your strong leg and everything's going well.
Hmm.
And then the very next day, all of a sudden, it's your bad leg and your left leg is your strong leg.
Right.
To me, it's kind of like finding an electrical problem in a car engine. I mean, it kind of is everywhere. I mean, so I guess my point in communicating that is to just expect that there are going to be unexpected challenges and for no reason at all. You could be doing super well in a particular physical therapy exercise one day, and the
Mhm.
next day it could be something that you can't do, and it's just inexplicable. At least that was my experience.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. The body. This is not a procedure that the body is meant to go through. So we're going against genetics here. So very cool. Number 4 is make it a game. Become MacGyver.
And that's like probably another indicator that I really am 50. Uh, so I'm not sure some of your audience even knows who MacGyver is. It was a TV show where Richard, I can't remember his last name, but was very inventive. He could build a nuclear bomb with a couple of matchsticks, some silly putty and a paperclip.
Right.
But what I meant by this is, I for me, it was it was almost a game. It was fun for me to figure out how I could accomplish things,
Hmm.
and I embraced that and turned it into almost a game
Hmm.
for me to figure out, okay, so I need to get from here to there, or I need to pick that up, or I need to do this. How do I do it? One of
Yeah.
the things I told you when we talked offline was, for example, after the initial surgery, you know, unbeknownst to me, there are these magic, loop holders for your legs to help you actually like lift your legs and move them onto the bed.
Hmm.
It's a stiff wire loop, like a rope almost with a cord over the top of it,
Yeah.
and you can use those to lift your legs. Well, I didn't get those. They just sent me. They didn't have them apparently. They just sent me, back to the hotel in a wheelchair, and so. You can't literally lift your legs when both your legs are broken. So for me, I'm like one of the first things was, well, how do I get my legs up here on the bed?
Yeah.
So, so what I decided to do was to figure it out. I took apart the wheelchair and the legs that moved to the side, they extend. I took it apart and I put the clip under my foot and I used it to lift my leg up on the bed. So, little things like that all the time, I thought were kind of fun in terms of figuring out solutions to those kind of everyday problems.
Absolutely. And by the way, MacGyver, they actually had a kind of like a what do you call it? Like, when they revamped the show, it's over now, but it was actually on TV, so I did know who he
Oh,
was because of that.
okay. Okay.
Very cool. All right, so number 5 we have here: keep busy, find a distraction, and the pun is
You
intended.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. To me, you know, um, I think staying busy and to find something that allows you just to at least temporarily escape from solely and completely focusing on this leg lengthening journey is kind of a healthy thing,
Hmm.
and for me, I found that um, doing some work was sort of that escape, catching up on things that I wanted to do but hadn't done.
Hmm.
You know, finding a show, for example, that you wanted to, and I think Dr. Optimus mentioned this. Just a way to mentally escape for just a brief period of time.
Hmm.
So for me, that was, I finished up Breaking Bad and moved on to Better Call Saul. And, I mean, those are both things I had started but never finished. And, that and work was a way for me to just kind of, you know, relieve some stress from just being in that experience and only focused on waiting because there, you can only do this so fast.
Yeah.
And to me, that was a healthy distraction.
Yeah, I love that healthy distraction. And I think it's going to happen. It's going to take 6 months, whether you're completely focused on limb lengthening, or 6 months while you're partially distracted. And why not have fun when you can? So,
Well, that and you don't want to be sitting around thinking about, boy, this is taking much longer than I wanted to.
absolutely, time
Why why
passes.
can't why why can't this be done now? I want to be done now. And
Exactly.
those some folks who focus on only that will want to stop just
Yeah,
because they don't want to deal with it.
That's so true. It's so true. Number 6, got an A+ on your limb lengthening journey. You still got to do your homework. What does that mean?
To me, that means do your PT, do your PT, do your PT, and do your PT.
Yes.
Even though you can, for me personally, my experience was you could get away with not doing very much at all for the first
Mhm.
35, 40 millimeters.
Mhm.
You didn't necessarily have to do it,
Yeah.
but you were going to, but if you get ahead and stay ahead, that's the best way to do it.
That's awesome.
And just observing other patients, in particular, Dr. Optimus, who was a machine
Mhm.
at his PT, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
You don't want to be playing catch up at the end because just like everybody else who's done this procedure has observed, the challenge, the difficulty curve gets steeper and steeper the closer you get to 80 millimeters,
Mhm.
and you want to be ahead of the game and well prepared rather than trying to play catch up and doing double time at the end.
So true. So true. Stay on point and don't fall off track. The number 7, I think I might have, yeah, I think it's the same one. It says prepare well, but realize you can't account for everything. What does that mean?
Well, on this one, I think there are things you can prepare for,
Hmm.
but there are things that you just need to accept that you may not be able to prepare for. One of
Okay.
those is just how your unique physiology is going to react to the surgery,
Yeah.
what the pace at which you're going to be able to lengthen,
Hmm.
that your body's going to tolerate. If you're focused on and expect that this is all going to be a completely linear progression and exactly 80 days from the day you start lengthening, you're going to be done, and exactly this many days later, you're going to be walking, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can do things to prepare to maximize that potential, but you have to recognize you can't prepare for everything.
Hmm. And that takes us right into number 8, which is your attitude is everything. Elaborate a little bit on that.
Well, for me, it's all about positivity.
Hmm.
I mean, I come down to the PMA, positive mental attitude.
I like it.
Again, if you're thinking about how long this is taking and how much this sucks, it's not too so unsurprisingly, your experience is going to suck.
Yeah.
So for me, I think you need to, not to be too corny, but accentuate the positive and just, focus on the positive and stay positive.
That's great. It's great. Positive attitude, and positive result. Number 9 is listen to your body. That's a good one.
Yeah, and I think that that's key. I mean, trust your body. Your
Mm.
body is not going to lie to you. If you have to slow down, you have to slow down. And it's not because you're a bad person. It's not because necessarily you're a failure at doing the right thing. It's
Hmm.
because that's just the limitation of your body.
Yeah, that's true. And everybody's body is different. Number 10, do limb lengthening for you and no one else.
I think that's maybe one of the most important things. I mean,
Mm.
hopefully everybody here recognizes that this is an important decision and that you're doing this for a reason that's important to you and not because you expect some magical result or because somebody else wants you to be something.
Yeah.
This is not about increasing your Tinder hits or expecting that supermodels are going to flock to you if you're just 3 inches taller. You
Right.
need to just do it for you, and the rest will follow.
Hmm. I love that. I love that so much. And it's so true. And I always say it's the indirect result that limb lengthening produces, not the direct result. I mean, like people think they'll get 3 inches taller. And like you said, they'll be, with every girl that they've ever wanted. But it's more about their confidence, their assertiveness. And once that, changes in them, everybody kind of notices that vibe and that positivity around them. So very cool.
Exactly.
Yep. And you had one last bonus one in here, which I thought was really, really cool. This journey is more than just the centimeters or length that you get. Talk about that.
Yeah. Well, for me, and this will sound corny, but it's more than just the 8 centimeters. I mean, or therefore, the sum total of the value you get from this experience isn't just linear or a mathematical computation.
Mm.
You know, to me, there's been a tremendous value in developing friendships along the way, sharing experiences with people, kind of in having the luxury of engaging in sort of what I thought was the leg lengthening summer camp, type experience. And, I have met and developed friendships with people I never would have met in my entire life.
Mm.
I've met a tremendous amount of kind, generous, highly capable people.
Hmm.
And for me, that's a lot of value in the experience aside from the 8 centimeters.
Yeah.
You know, it's as equally valuable to me as the added height.
I agree. I agree. And that's the same thing that happened to me as well. When I was going in for, my checkups, I would kind of, just mingle with other patients, just talking to them and say, hey, look, how are you doing? And it just helped everybody out and that networking. And now I'm able to I'm fortunate enough to be able to do it on a digital scale and reach everybody around the world. So it's super, super cool. Very awesome. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing that. But the really cool thing is, guys, that the professional actually made this in downloadable PDF format. So you can actually click the link below this video right now and get this handout for yourself. So you can kind of remember these 10 tips and the bonus that he provided for you in this live stream. So go ahead and click the link below this video and you can get it as well. All the email contacts I sent it to you already. It's in your inbox. So take a look at that. Awesome. So TP, I just want to kind of like wrap it all up here. What is your final words of advice to any patient who is considering limb lengthening?
I think my natural instinct is, if you've been thinking about this for quite some time and you're on the fence, go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, this experience will be rewarding. There's never going to be an optimal time if you have a busy life. You just need to make the time and set aside the time.
Yeah.
And the result that's going to happen and that's supposed to happen will happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything will kind of fall in place. And I just realized I said the outro before I went to the live chat. So let's go to the live chat questions, because I know there's some questions there. I'm sorry about that. I lost my cue there. So yeah, because Randy's actually not here today, so I'm way off my schedule. But let's scroll through this. There's not a whole lot here, I don't think, but we do have some. Hey, Daka1. Yeah, he's a big supporter of the channel. All right, so question from Benjamin Minoza to you, TP. He's asking, which segment did you do, femur, tibias, or both?
Just femurs. And if one question is, are you open to consider doing your tibias?
Yeah.
The answer is, never say never, but probably not
Okay.
anytime soon.
Okay, that's cool. Awesome. So it's not a complete no, but not anytime soon. Yeah. So then JoJo was asking the same thing. Did he get femurs or tibias done? He got femurs done, JoJo.
Femurs.
Yep. Oh wait, this is somebody's asking somebody else that. I'm sorry. Let's see here. Trying to find any questions in here. You guys have any questions for the professional? He is part of the terrific trio of Bob the Circus Boy Hunt and Dr. Optimus. He is the third part to that crew. So ask him. He has value upon value. I mean, this guy, when I talked to him a couple days ago before this interview, he just blew my mind. So your questions are going to be answered right here, right now. So be sure to ask while you have the chance. He'll be back, but why not ask now? Let's see. Oh yeah, somebody said they've heard about you in other videos. I think that's what they're saying. Let's see here. Okay, they're just talking amongst themselves. I think we have a few questions down here. Just a second here. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Question from Devin May. He's asking, did you need to buy new pants after lengthening? Do any of your old pants fit?
Absolutely. It's funny you asked that question. Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, within the last week, I decided I need more than just sweats. So I bought some new pants, and yes, they're different size, and no, none of my old pants fit.
Really? That's incredible. So that's
Well, I mean, they fit, but they make me look a bit like Urkel. You know, they're 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 they're, they're about 3 inches too short.
no,
So
yeah, that's
you can only wear your pants so low. So
hmm
I'm
that's awesome. I love it. I love it. Let's see here. So somebody's actually asking, can you talk about how you feel with your new height? Do you feel like your height neurosis is gone? 1010
I,
T10.
I feel great about my new height, and the answer is my height neurosis is gone. I don't even
Oh,
think about height. I mean
that's
that
great.
the value of clearing up that mental space is well worth all the pain and the work that you go through for the experience. At least it was for me.
That's great. That's amazing advice there. Ben's asking, does any of your family know that you've done this procedure?
Yes, my wife and my brother know. My
Hmm.
2 children do not know, but I think they highly suspect that they actually know in reality and just haven't outed me yet.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and you, like you said, you have this family gathering coming up this weekend. So when we have you back on the show, you'll be able to update us on how that went. So,
Especially my son, who's 16 years old and was already and is now about 5'11", barefoot.
wow.
So I'm certain that he knows, but he
Yeah,
hasn't. He hasn't directly called me out, but that's
yeah,
coming.
yeah. Because I mean, now you're almost like eye level with him, pretty much.
Oh yes, yes. He's a lucky kid. He'll be a big boy.
Yeah, he'll be over 6 foot. He's still growing, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Look who it is. Bobby Hunt is here, the circus boy. He said, I'm here. I had to tap out at 58 millimeters, but I'm 58 years young. That's look at that. 58 for 58. Hey, Bob, we're gonna have you, Dr. Optimus, and the professional on. Maybe like on a giant round table, more people as well, because I can host up to I think it's like 10 people now because I upgraded. But it'll be incredible to have all you guys a part. I miss you, man. We got to have an update on you, but that's awesome. Hey, 58 millimeters is over 2 inches. I'm sure you're happy with that height. So
Bob, I miss you too, brother.
there you go. Shout out from your old guy, your old teammate. Height Journey. He's another YouTuber. So you guys check out his channel as well, Height Journey on YouTube. He's asking, did you travel home with the Precise Nails? If so, how did you manage? How did you fly on a plane?
Yes, height journey, I did, and I managed just fine. I did not have any kind of extraordinary pain because of the nails in my legs. I mean, it wasn't. I will tell you, it wasn't a comfortable experience sitting on a plane, but I was fortunate enough to I had a lot of air miles, so I used those up on getting first class upgrades,
Nice.
and that was a lot easier. I will tell you one thing that was a very uh, significant challenge was flying home with the ERC device. It's
Mm-hmm.
got a lithium battery, and it was like I was smuggling cocaine every time I went to the airport. It was crazy. It was crazy how challenging it was, and I thought I had figured out the magic to avoid that, but that was one of the second happiest days of my life when I got to leave that device and never have to fly with it again because it was really a pain in the butt.
I see. I see. Are you sure your name's the professional or is it the transporter? I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it was as if I was transporting some illegal drugs. It was crazy.
That's hilarious. All right.
Yeah.
Game theory optimal is asking, how long do you think it'll be before you lose your walker and start walking independently?
2 weeks from now. two
Cool.
weeks from now, and my I mean, maybe I'm overly optimistic, uh, but I think that's very realistic, and I think I would have been there already had I not developed COVID and had some very significant work requirements where I had to travel and
Hmm.
do a bunch of stuff and didn't have time to really do the PT that I should have been doing.
Gotcha. Gotcha. But hey, 2 weeks is not that long. It'll be here before you know it. Um, Ben's asking, which state did you get your surgery in? So you want to mention your surgeon state and all that?
Yeah, it was in Nevada, and my surgeon was Dr. Debbie Pershad.
Yep. That's how he met the
I had, I,
Dr. Optimus. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, and I'm I'm not here to plug anybody in particular. Everybody needs to do what makes sense for them. But I did want to make sure that I acknowledge, Ronnie, his medical assistant, who was just absolutely fantastic.
Nice.
He was great, and I had nothing but good experiences with Dr. D and his entire staff.
Very cool. Well, that's a big shout out to Ronnie and everybody over there. Next question here, back from Hike Journey. He's asking, how do you get around in the airport with the precise nails? Do you use a walker or wheelchair? How do you handle your luggage?
Another good question. I had wheelchair assist every time I went to the airport.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So I would. So they provide that. When the airline I flew provides that at no charge, and I did, and I really just eventually. At first, it was just the wheelchair and then the walker, and later it became more the walker than the wheelchair.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Do you have any other?
Be prepared. Be prepared if you fly. It's an interesting experience, because what they'll do is they'll take you in your wheelchair. They'll put you in this teeny tiny wheelchair that forces your legs to extend backwards, and they literally try to strap you in there like you're in an electric chair. and the people that do that, bless their souls, are very kind people, but don't really know what they're doing. Like, for example, they wheeled me on the plane one time backwards. So, like, in order to get up, I had to use my arms and turn around backwards to get into my chair. And it's just kind of a pain in the butt. Eventually, though, I was able to just convince them, hey, I'm in row 1 or 2. Let me just use my walker to walk onto the plane. I don't need the equivalent of what I call the electric chair to get on the plane.
That's crazy. I've actually seen one of those when I was traveling recently. Somebody had the wheelchair assistant. I saw that. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's funny. Game Theory is back with another question. He's asking, what's prohibiting you from walking without the walker at the moment? Is it pain, flexibility? What is it exactly?
It's not really pain. It's more just uncertainty and a pretty significant penguin waddle.
Gotcha.
And so, to be clear, I could probably be more aggressive about just insisting on walking without the walker, but I at this point, I don't want to risk it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's completely fair. Hey, 2 weeks will be here, guys. I mean, but when we have him back on, I'm sure he'll be walking and be able to give you like an update on his walking experience. All right. Any other questions in here? Some of these questions were redundant. So, Lewis, if you want to go back and check when he had the procedure done, it was December 6th, correct?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
December 6th was the original surgery. April 15th was the AWBP surgery.
Gotcha. All right. Okay, so we actually have a few more questions. They're popping in now. Now we're about to do the outro. Everybody hops in last minute, but here we go. Hey, that's what we're here for. Omar's asking, why did you go for an internal nail and not an external fixator?
Well, I would never do external fixators on femurs, number one.
Yeah.
I think that it's, to me, I think the consensus is that that's just a much more painful procedure and unnecessary. I think if you did tibias, external fixators might be more appropriate or okay. In fact, some people I think would argue that it's less painful, but the internal nail was the only way to go for femurs.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's what I think. The LON for the femur should be phased out completely. I hear so many things. I know it's cheaper, guys, but it's really probably not worth it in the long run for what you have to go through. But anyway, I digress. Let's see here. Tanvir is asking, did you have an IT band release?
Yes, I did. And one thing I forgot to mention is the same thing that Dr. Optimus mentioned when he talked about his AWPP surgery. I did mine exactly, I think, 1 week before his. That Dr. D actually creatively used the same scar that he had done the ITB band release for one of the screws, the distal screws.
Hmm.
And so, and I'm somehow I gained weight on this journey. I was hopeful that I would lose 25 pounds and gain 3 inches in height and finally be in that stereotypical BMI index as, fit as a fiddle, but I didn't. And so I too have the two distal screws closer to the knee, and then one screw on each side where the IT band release scar was, and then the two proximal, I guess is the right term. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah. Very cool.
back up toward the hip. So
Wow, man. So you had it done before Dr. Optimus, so that you probably were his, fountain of
guinea
knowledge. Yeah, the guinea pig.
guinea pig. I was the guinea pig.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
All right, let's see here. We have another question in here from Game Theory. He's asking, trauma nails weigh almost 4 pounds each. Did you feel this added weight when you walk or when you move around, I guess?
Initially, I thought I could. Well, let's just say this: I feel them much more than I did the precise 2.2
Okay.
mils.
Okay.
Yes, and I still do, but it's
Mm,
not anywhere near as pronounced as right after the procedure when you're so stiff.
right. That makes sense.
I,
Yeah.
I, I don't feel that. It doesn't feel anything like that now.
Yeah. 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 Because you're getting more muscle. I mean, your muscles are kind of like toning back up and everything. Yeah. That makes sense.
And I hope you're right, because when I get them removed, I can lose 8 pounds in a day.
That might have been part of it. It's like, there we go. That's an easy way to do it. Very cool. All right, guys. Do you have any more questions for the professional? TP is here to answer your questions. So if you have any questions, but the really cool thing is he's also created a private email for you guys. If you see it here in the bottom ticker, it's theprofessionalcll@gmail.com. It's also posted below in the show notes. So if you want to reach out to him, if you want to ask him questions about stature lengthening, limb lengthening, how he managed to get through this whole process, his pain levels, everything he did, he's willing to share with you guys. He's paying it back. He's giving it back to the limb lengthening community. So I think that's really amazing of him. And, or if you're an older person who's considering this, I know we have a lot of older guys who contact me and say, hey, look, am I too old? Well, now here's your proof. We had Bob the Circus Boy Hunt. We have the professional. So you can ask your questions about that as well. So, all right, guys. So
yeah, please do. Please
Yeah.
do. Feel free to email me if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer when I can. If I don't respond immediately, it's because I'm busy with work. And I just say, it's never too late to make your dreams come true. If you would have told me that I would have had the opportunity to do this procedure and be on your show, Victor, 2 years ago, I would have thought you were nuts. But I consider both of those things, privileges, and thank you for inviting me to the show.
Absolutely, man. Well, let's give it up for the professional for coming out and, sharing all this amazing, information with you guys. All right, guys, that is it for episode 36 of Lengthening Live. If you want to, ask questions, you can email the professionalcll@gmail.com. And until next time, this is Victor from Cyborg for Life, signing out. See you guys next time. Peace.
Thanks, Victor.
Yep. Thanks.